Welcome everybody to my fourth installment of my Halloween special here. I've never done one. I'm showing albums that either the music is kind of creepy, has that there dark atmosphere, or the cover art conjures kind of a dark, fall-like eeriness about it. So we start off here with Berlioz' Symphonie Fantastique. This was just kind of eerie. Kind of reminds me of the way the fall skies look sometime. Pink with that golden orb setting. And that particular imagery right there reminds me of the dark movie THX 1138, where he's rising up out of the tunnel from his underground city where he spent his whole life. And he's made it out to the surface of the earth and seeing the sun in the sky for the first time. Yeah, love that. Stravinsky, La Sacrée du Printemps. This is a really dark cover, I thought, for a classical album. Very eerie there. And then Dukas, The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Another creepy cover. See, this is from 1958. That other one was from 60. Yeah, so the further you go back in age on these album covers, the more interesting the album art is. I just love it. And here, kind of a subdued, dark album cover here that somewhat reminds me of these fortune tellers, you know, the crystal balls, the mediums. I think Stevie Nicks was a white witch. Her apparel was always in these flowing black gowns and white and transparent, wing-like. You know, just eerie. And they're holding a crystal ball there. And here's another kind of apocalyptic imagery. A Farewell to Kings, classic by Rush. Love that album cover, love the album. Yeah, Cygnus X1 is very dark. Xanadu somewhat. Yeah, it just has a, you know, a very atmospheric, old world type of sound to it. And then Rush's very, very popular, perhaps their best album by some's estimation, Moving Pictures from 1981. Excellent progressive here. Yeah, this is really they really do a good job on this one. Somewhat dark, creepy imagery there, moving all these paintings into that giant museum. Thin Lizzy's Thunder and Lightning. Somewhat dark there. Jailbreak. Kind of a dark image on there. Done in a comic book style. I really like that. Yeah, Jailbreak. And Meatloaf's Bat Out of Hell. Very big album for him. Huge, heavy radio play. Mahogany Rush's Child of the Novelty. Another dark cover. This, yeah, Maxim and Child of the Novelty and a whole bunch of others from the early to late 70s period. Mahogany Rush was kind of Canada's answer to Jimi Hendrix and that wild psychedelic guitar style he had. And then they went a little step further. Yeah. A great modern day progression on the original Jimi Hendrix sound with their own, you know, personal stamp on that. And then another slightly dark album. Very psychedelic here, progressive, pop, kind of a concept album. Paul Kantner, Grace Slick, the members of Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, which we evolved eventually into Starship. They did about 4 of these concept albums in the late 60s, early 70s. This is Baron von Tollbooth and the Chrome Nun. Great work here. I just love that dark imagery there. Just eerie. And then one of my favorite Grateful Dead albums of all time. Of all their works, my favorite is their 69 Live Dead. There that woman is coming out of that coffin. And golden earrings to the hilt. Guy on the train track there. Train's coming along. Dark. And then I think the Hieronymus Bosch I was referring to in another one of these installments for Halloween that was the better imagery is shown on Deep Purple's second album, self-titled here from '69. Yeah, great dark imagery there that showed up in so many books, art galleries. And a real beautiful one, very beautiful folk, a singer-songwriter here, Jackson Browne. Just kind of evokes a very cool fall evening. Beautiful album. I love this album. This might be my favorite album by him from '74. Nothing dark about it, just the kind of an eerie October looking evening, late summer. Here's Blue Oyster Cult's Imaginos. I thought was a very dark cover. And the music is too. Yeah, very, very cool stuff here. I like all Blue Oyster Cult's albums. Virtually any album you could pick by them is fairly dark. But these seem to just have the darkest atmosphere for my personal taste. There's another one, black and white. Another pretty good album. Of course, they put their symbols in all the paintings or photos on their albums, kind of like the artist that did all of Iron Maiden's albums. He put his signature little picture on there. And here's another one that's kind of dark. An alien coming out of a spacecraft. And the members of the band standing beneath there, kind of like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that landing. And this is probably one of their best albums. Fire of Unknown Origin. Of course, that refers to spontaneous human combustion, the rare and mysterious, unexplained phenomena where people just go on fire and burn with an intense heat from inside out, leaving only the outer extremities of maybe 2 feet or legs or arms. The rest of the body is totally consumed into a powder. It takes intense heat to turn bone into powder, and yet these all these cases, the crux of the human skeletal was nothing but powder and ash. So yeah, very good album all the way through. Burnin' For You was their big radio hit on this one. Yeah, just loaded with good songs. This is my favorite by them. This was somewhat of a weak, just because of the sound quality, and the group may have not been in their top form, but this is nonetheless a really good album. Some Enchanted Evening, a live concert of Blue Oyster Cult. And there's a Grim Reaper with his sickle riding that dark horse. Nice creepy back imagery there of a desert, full moon. This one kind of has an occultic imagery of a seance, perhaps, where they're seated around that table with little occultic imagery all around them. This one has their beautiful, beautiful, haunting song, I Love the Night. And also a song about an alien encounter, The Vigil. Yeah. Possibly an alien abduction. Even the new wave pop band A Flock of Seagulls, one of their songs was about an alien encounter or abduction. Yeah, there's been many groups that have done that. The lyrics are so veiled that if you're not really listening close, you miss it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Here's a classic early 70s rock band, real gritty, country-edged rock, very hard, psyche, progressive. Excellent band, excellent band. I love all their albums. Now, most albums start out progressive and then get more commercial. Blood Rock, on the other hand, started out more commercial and ended more progressive in their final phase in the early 70s. They produced many albums just back to back from about 1969, I think is when they formed, 68, and then their last album was about maybe 74, 75. So yeah, about 7 or 8 releases in a very short span of time. And this has their darkest cover on here. This album is known for the big radio hit, and they're a one-hit wonder. I think, to my knowledge, this was the only song that the group ever produced that made it big commercially. The song was called DOA, Dead on Arrival. And it's a long song, very long in that day. Considering the DJs like to talk a lot, squeeze a lot of commercials in, so the songs didn't run 6, 7, 8 minutes, 9 minutes. They all were about 2, 3 minutes. So yeah, when this hit the airwaves, it was quickly scaled down to a shorter version. But in those early days when I first heard this, it was all in its extended full-length glory with the sirens on there and the frightening, somewhat sickening imagery they paint about a horrific car accident and the guy as he slowly dies being whisked away in an ambulance. Yeah. And then somewhat dark imagery there. Of course, you got that Illuminati, Masonic checkerboard floor pattern there again. And just kind of a creepy, I don't know, some type of person standing there. Kind of hard to make out, but yeah, it's just kind of dark. The one song on here that I really liked was Show Your Love. Check out Show Your Love by The Image from 1975 on Manticore Records. And here was a cover I always liked. Cover you never forget. Stuff you'd always see in the horror movies. This is Sugarloaf with Jerry Corbetta. You know Sugarloaf, their self-titled album, and then Spaceship Earth. And this is from a little bit later, 75. Don't Call Us, We'll Call You, which was a big radio hit of theirs in 75. Had little brief segments of Wolfman Jack in there. And this is somewhat progressive. There's several tracks on here. This is what I'd call kind of a more commercial, but with, hints of proto-prog in there, with songs that are leaning on that progressive side there, because of the way the song is structured and their length. But let's see here. Myra was a song that I really liked. Don't Call Us, We'll Call You was a big radio hit, yeah. And then Al Stewart, Modern Times, kind of a gothic castle there. That castle kind of reminds me of the movie with Bud Cort and Ruth Gordon, Harold and Maude. Yeah. Rich kid that's always performing these mock suicides to try to get the attention of his mother. Kind of a dark cover there by Steely Dan. A lot of people hate Steely Dan. They dismiss Steely Dan, but I love Steely Dan. Love this band. Donald Fagen, his buddy Walter there. Yeah. And we'll wrap it up here for this installment. This is another one I thought was kind of dark. Kind of a locust, grasshopper, katydid there. Kind of blurry. You know, somewhat out of focus. Just eerie. And then Gary Wright's, before Gary Wright went solo, he was in the group Spooky Tooth. And this is the album The Mirror. It has a die-cut cover. There we go. Kind of dark imagery on there. And then Jimmy Spheris. I really love the clever title of this album. The Isle of View. Jimmy Spheris. The Isle of View. Isle of You. I love you. Kind of dark. Mysterious. Some human form riding a giant winged creature. Kind of a folky, light love song. Yeah, very good album. Really like the atmosphere he creates. And then, do you remember Sniffin' the Tears, Driver's Seat, the big hit from '78? Great song. This is their album Fickle Heart. And that's kind of a dark imagery there. Dead man, woman walking away with a gun, black cat, yeah. Driver's Seat, Looking for You, and New Lines on Love were the three songs that were my favorites off this album. That's what I usually do when I'm thinking about it. I'll put a little sticker on there. And then Rubicon, kind of a disco, funky, rock, progressive. No eerie, dark songs on this one, just the cover there. Closely is a great song. Vanilla Gorilla. I'm Gonna Take Care of Everything. You know that song. You remember that. Kind of their one-hit wonder. And then Pit and the Pendulum. Kind of eerie there. With that rat crawling on that arm. And then the like druid or the little hooded figures there, their clothing kind of dark. And then the Rolling Stones, dark imagery there. Their take their attempt at replicating their own personal Beatles, not Magical Mystery Tour, but the title escapes me at this moment. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Nico, The End, very dark. Her and Jim were two kindred souls. She worshipped Jim. Jim wasn't that interested in her as she was him. But yeah, both were fascinated by death, loved the thought of death, sang about it, wrote about it. Very dark album there. Her and Her Harmonium. And then, as a little kid, I was always creeped out following my mom in department stores when she went clothing shopping, and we'd pass through the clothing area with all the what back then in the 60s were more lifelike mannequins. They looked real and they looked creepy. And I always imagined it as a little kid that the store had hid cameras behind their eyes, and that some of the mannequins were actually watching the shoppers, you know, for shoplifting. And sometimes I would imagine as a kid that the mannequins had life in them, and I would look back at them and swore that they moved to watch me as I passed and was monitoring my movement through the store, and that just creeped me out. So yeah, this album cover with all those mannequins there having a picnic. They've all risen up from the table and run to see a giant blaze. A blaze is coming through their picnic area. Yeah. And then Quarter Flash, their second album, had a bunch of mannequins on the front, just crowded in all different clothes, adults, children. I thought was kind of creepy. Now that one wasn't quite as scary because they was all kind of friendly looking mannequins. So that's this installment, and we'll continue, I guess, to part 5. Surely it'll wrap up at 5 because I don't have much left here. So I will continue this. I'll just continue it now. I'm going to squeeze this all in here. Going back to some Ultra Lounge, that their light elevator music, easy listening of the day, that space age pop. It has many names, but this is all basically what you heard on the easy listening FM radio stations when they became real popular with this type of music in '62. And others joined, and by '65 the ball was pretty much rolling, as there was just kind of an explosion of FM stations playing this type of music. But yeah, I like that cover there, a little skull and a candle. And then Nelson Riddle, I mean, I just love all his music. Here's another one. This is the lighter side, just the fall side. The tame, not scary, but just feelings of the beautiful change in the fall seasons. Yeah. I think I sent one, I had an extra copy of this I sent Carm in his big box back about a year or so ago, I think. But I just love that picture there. Perfectly conveys fall and the cool weather, blue skies. Love it, love it. Very pastoral music. Beautiful symphony there. And here's some jazz with vocalist. Yeah. There's Norman Bates. Norman Bates has been, he's been, what do you call it? Not reconditioned, but he's come out of the insane asylum now after, you know, committing those heinous crimes there in Psycho. And he's a new man, and he's into the jazz scene. So he's, you know, doing some wonderful fall jazz music here. which that scene perfectly conjures up. Just a rainy day, light-hearted, breezy. Wonderful jazz music here from about 1958. Really like that album. And here's some fall-sounding music. This music conveys fall perfectly. Ambient #2 by Harold Budd and Brian Eno. All those songs just go perfectly together, creating a wonderful fall chill air feeling. And then Abandoned Cities with the Harold Budd. This is very similar ambient work to what we had playing in the background with Jeff Greinke, Cities in Dust. And then the beautiful piano work of George Winston, his Autumn. This makes it for a great play on ECM here, or Windham Hill. Windham Hill this time of year. Yeah, very nice. And then this one is a major conjurer of the cool fall feeling. Harold Budd and Brian Eno's The Pearl from '84. Just gorgeous. Very gentle, soft atmospheres here. Superb. This is a 10, a must-have. A must-have. Late October. A stream with bright fish, the silver ball against the sky, lost in the humming air, dark-eyed sister, their memories, the pearl, foreshadowed, an echo of night, and still return. And then this is a little darker. This is a combination of several soundtracks by Mark Isham. It's called Film Music. And you have really atmospheric, somewhat haunting and emotional synthesizer works by Mark Isham from the movie Mrs. Soulful, The Times of Harvey Milk, and especially dark from Never Cry Wolf on Windham Hill. Another great listen here. He also did incredible music for the movie The Hitcher. Yeah, great stereo, kind of a three-dimensional sound in that movie. And I think that's it. That's it. So I will wrap it up here. Thanks for joining me, folks. Hope you're all having a wonderful October. And I'll be back with more, so stay tuned. Catch you later.